This episode is sponsored by Skillshare, and the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a free trial of Skillshare's premium membership. Enjoy the episode. Hey everybody, welcome to Impact Theory. Our goal with this show and company is to introduce you to the people and ideas that will help you actually execute on your dreams. In celebration of Thanksgiving, today we are going to look back on some of the stellar past guests and the many different ways that they give thanks. From practicing gratitude to honoring their relationships, these are all great ways to be thankful for all the positive things in your life. So let's get ready to hear from our first guest, the one and only John Maxwell.
What's interesting is reading your books and hearing you talk about your strategies, but then seeing you come in today. So you say that you're in the people business. You tell a really great story about how one of your leaders had walked by a group of people and not said anything, and you taught him, that was a real missed opportunity. And then when you came in today, you literally went to each person and introduced yourself. What is that power of connection?
Well, I think, first of all, it's valuing people. You have a incredible work here, and every person here in this studio makes it happen. And one is too small of a number to achieve greatness. And the moment that you understand that the people that you have around you, they're either your number one asset or, to be honest with you, they can be your number one liability. But the moment that you understand that and begin to value people, I think that is what creates the connection. Because the moment that, I think we all know, don't you, Tom, don't you think when a person values you and when a person doesn't value you? And so I think that giving value to people and expressing that to them is the common ground that builds relationships. And so, when I came in the studio, I wanted to meet everybody because you've got an incredible, successful program, and I want to meet the people who help you be who you are.
I love that.
It begins there. Because if I don't truly value people, I won't add value to them. You don't add value to people that you don't value. You don't add value to anything you don't value. So every day I value people. That's where it starts. But then every day I think of ways to add value to people. So I'll look at my calendar and I look at my agenda today and I realize I was going to be with you. And I think, well, okay, how can I add value to you? What can I do for Impact Theory that'll, just help? Because, again, if you're constantly adding value to people, you're going to be of great value to people. So, okay, I value people, think of ways to add value to people, then I look for ways to add value to people. When I'm in the setting, I'm looking for, okay, what can I do? What can I say? But what we see is what we look for. And so if I'm looking to add value, guess what? I'll see ways to add value to it. Somebody else might be beside you, not add value at all to you. But I look for ways. And then number 4, I do things that add value to people. And then number 5, I encourage others to add value to people. And I've just lived that simple formula. I do that every day of my life. It's very simple. And I try to help other people do that, understanding that if they do that, wherever they are, leadership culture, not a leadership culture, doesn't really matter. They'll begin to influence and begin to lead people, and they'll begin to make a difference in people's lives. And I think that's essential. But I think you have to be intentional, and I think you have to be consistent. Consistency compounds.
It's really fascinating to me that if we do sit and contemplate a problem, we will come to some truth that many other people come to in similar situations, whether they're in a concentration camp or in a lab. It fascinates me. I call it going into the river of yourself to find the ocean of everything else. I realized about the habit loops, I didn't have that word for it. Again, when I was homeless, I was addicted to stealing. And I was addicted to negativity, and I was addicted to anxiety. I could tell that. And I just stopped suddenly one day, and I was struck by the thought that if our brains are addictive, if we are capable of being addicted, if it's such a natural thing to us, there must be a biological evolutionary reason. It can't be that this was all a mistake and oops, sorry about that addictive part of your brain, It just didn't make sense. And so I wondered if I could get addicted to negative things, could I get addicted to anything, to positive things? And so I noticed this, I called it a triad. I noticed I had a problem and it was triggering me. I knew that word. I probably didn't know that word then. A stimulus. I knew being homeless was really bad for me, my anxiety and my panic attacks. Then I had a response, and it was stealing. And then I had a reward. And so I realized I couldn't change this first one, but I could change my reaction to it. And so I decided to insert writing. And so every time I wanted to steal, I forced myself to write. And I did it enough, and it was hard. It wasn't fun. It didn't feel good. Stealing would have felt way better. But I stuck with it enough to where I started to get a reward. And then I realized once I could do that, I could start to tackle really specific problems and get highly specific. I look at meditation. I was taught to meditate by an aunt when I was about 12, maybe.
Whoa.
It was transcendental meditation. I didn't really stick with it, but I knew of the concept. And then I think also writing, being creative, I sang my whole life and I wrote my whole life, forces you to be present. So it turns out if you're being observant or curious, you're in a mindful state. That easy. So if you're anxious, all you have to do is get really observant and really curious. It can be about the light in the room. It could be the smell of something. But you're forced instantly into a mindful state. You don't even actually have to meditate to do that per se. And then I realized I have to start taking the skill of meditation out. How do I describe it? It's like going to the gym and building up a muscle. And if you build up that muscle in the gym, it's important and it's great and it changes you. But unless you can put that muscle to work in your day, your life may not be fully changed. Meditation was like doing a bicep curl. But I needed to find a way how to take that bicep curl and that muscle I was building and change habits. And that's where I started developing very specific exercises to attack or change very specific problems I was struggling with. And I continued to do that my whole life, my whole career. And then I met Dr. Brewer maybe 2 years ago. And when he saw the exercises I developed, he was like, those actually work. Those actually rewire your brain. And so on my website, he goes on and actually explains why they work, which was a total trip and really amazing.
So I'd love to hear what some of those exercises are. What are some of the specific things that you did then? Have they morphed and changed? What are you doing now?
When I was homeless, I realized I had two basic states. I felt like this or I felt like this. It was open and dilated or it was tight and contracted. And I realized every thought, feeling, and action led to one of those two states. And so a really simple hack was when I noticed a panic attack coming on or a huge anxiety attack, I would just force myself to have a thought, feeling, or action that dilated me. It sounds really simple, but I just used gratitude. So I would remember my first time I tried it, it was on the street corner. I liked to live near this little flowering bush. It was like my home. And I was miserable and anxious and heading into a panic attack. And I forced myself to notice the light coming through this palm tree and the way it filtered down and it looked like a lace dress on me. And I just forced myself to feel the sun, to smell the air, to be profoundly grateful that I was feeling the sun on me. I had a lot of memories of Alaska sitting in the sun, and it forced my entire system to dilate. And I didn't know at the time what I know now. Now there's a lot of science. Your vascular system does dilate. Your blood pressure does, drop. Your blood flow patterns change in your brain. And you get a different biochemical release, which is amazing. I felt it at that time. I didn't know the science, but I knew that it worked. So that's one that I teach on the website. And they're all just 3-minute exercises that are very specifically designed to attack very specific and certain things as we try to change.
You retired at 29, not just because you were thinking. You retired at 29 because you ran businesses. You got very thoughtful about how to generate money and save it. How should people be acting with their money? So we get now how they should be thinking, but how should they be acting with their money?
Thank you, Tom. I think it's a beautiful question. And I think that's exactly what we need to learn. Because once you start appreciating, your life shifts too. For example, one of the readers on my book, she was a single mom with a low-paying job. She was working as a secretary. And then she came to me and she used to complain about her low-paying job, but after reading my book, she changed her attitude and she started appreciating about life and boss. And she realized that she didn't have a college degree, but she was hired as a secretary. So that's a big reason to appreciate her boss. Before, she was always complaining about him. And I think the feeling really probably came across to her boss, and she got a big raise in a few weeks. So once you start appreciating, I've heard so many stories, I can even write a few books on this. Once you start appreciating your boss, your clients, they appreciate you back. So in my 20s, the reason why I was successful was I was a little unique in so many different things. For example, when I was doing accounting consulting, I divided my clients to two groups. One, I do regular job. The other, I always bring something whenever I got to meet them, just a herb tea, Japanese tea, like a book, or just not super expensive. So in 6 months, I got so many referrals from the gift-giving groups. I didn't ask for any clients, right? But they gave me so many referrals. And the second, group, not so much. So I recommend everybody to start giving more, something a little extra, not like 30% more, but something to show your appreciation. And it doesn't really matter if you're a florist or cleaners or business lawyers or a dentist. If you start giving something, you get more. So this is the law, I think. If you give more, you receive more. And then there is one more extra reason to appreciate about. So your life would shift. So your whole energy would be so different and so content. And I think people want to do business with happier people. People don't want to go with people who are very depressed. So the people with the radiance of appreciation often attracts more people and more opportunities. So this is not a new age or spiritual thing. It's a practice to appreciate more. So what you appreciate appreciates. And I think it's so simple. So start appreciating about money is the first step. And then second step is start appreciating what you have. And if you start sharing what you have, I call it gift. All of us have gifts. I've written probably like half of my books, 20 books on how to discover your gifts and monetize them. Because each of us is born with a special gift and something to be shared with this planet. And if you can find it, and if you can improve it, and you can polish it and just share with a society, I think that translates into money. So I wrote a national bestseller, do what you love and make sure money follows you. So it's very important. You have to have both.
So my personal faith, a member of the Baha'i faith, has definitely inspired this idea that we rise to our maximum potential when we're of service to others. And not only our maximum potential, but our greatest usefulness. And living in that potential and usefulness gives us the most kind of rich human satisfaction. And I know for me, because I spent a long time when I first started getting famous, various points in time, just trying to satisfy myself and my ego, and I was miserable. In fact, they do studies on happiness, and this is part of mental health, is you can, I'm sure you've had some happiness experts on, but there's so many books about it, and the whole field of positive psychology is a really exciting field. It just started in the 90s. I mean, when I was going to college, there was no such field as positive psychology. Now there's thousands of books about it, and they're really exciting. But one of the things that is 100% true in positive psychology is irrefutable that one of the worst ways to achieve happiness or contentment, whatever you want to call it, is through materialism. And yet we live in a culture that tells you over and over and over again, if you get this car, if you get this amount of money, if you have this amount of success, this amount of fame, this amount of a promotion, then you will be happy. You will achieve happiness once you get to that certain level. And yet the pursuit of that, the pursuit of like, I need to make 165,000 a year to be happy, or I need to own the new Tesla to be happy, or once I get this kind of girlfriend or spouse or whatever, then I'll be happy. The pursuit of kind of a materialistic view of happiness is it has an inverse effect. It decreases your happiness. It makes you less healthy. I mean, you can do, again, I don't have the exact specifics on the tip of my tongue. It's a simple Google search. And conversely, happiness, contentment, self-enrichment, I always talk about eudaimonia. You know, you've probably heard about that and talked about that before. I think we spoke about it before. The idea that the ancient Greeks had a word for happiness called eudaimonia, which is human flourishing, you know. And I love that umbrella concept. Like, what creates the largest human flourishing? Let's focus on that. Forget happiness, human flourishing. But from the Baha'i faith, from the study of positive psychology, helping others, being of service, maximizing how much you matter actually is the number one cause of human flourishing. So when I kind of get into my shit of like, oh, I'm not acting as much as I should be, or people only know me as Dwight, or I'll never have a career again, or, you know, I need X show to make X amount of money so that I can go on X vacation or something. When I get into that whole stuff, which, you know, that comes and goes every week, it's kind of like, how can I be of service? How can I help people? How can I take the skills that God has given me, that nature has given me, and put those to their best possible use? So I let that be, I try and let that be a guiding light in my life.
So I've worked in the inner cities a lot, and one thing I've noticed is that the inner city breaks almost everyone that it touches. But there are a few people that manage to be so transformed by it, whether it's out of, I never want to go back, whether it just hardened them and they had to be smart to survive, whatever it is. There's a certain set of lessons that some people learn that then propel them so hard, so far, so fast out of the inner cities that they go on to accomplish just truly extraordinary things. And needless to say, put your name among those people. So walk us through, like, what were some of the key moments that you experienced as a kid, and how did you end up interpreting it in a way that pushed you forward, even if it was just, I have to get the hell away from this?
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of moments where it's just like light bulb click. But I feel like one thing that I had that a lot of people don't have is, even though I had a lot of experience seeing the stuff that happens in our communities, I also had access to the other side. You know, I got to see what was possible. You know, my father and my mother, they divorced. And when they divorced, my father was living in a separate place than my mother. And my mother was the one that was living in the hood, you know. My dad was living in a, I guess, middle class kind of, we're still poor, but he was still living in a middle class community. And I would go back and forth, you know. And, you know, I had a friend up the street who had everything. He had, you know, the almost like the Legos with the big house and the train going through the, you know, the Christmas tree and like all that stuff. And I used to look like, man, I remember one time I went and I was eating at their house and I sat down, and then, you know, after eating, I was gonna get up, and then his mother's like, wait, where you going? Like, it's time for dessert. And I was just like, what? Dessert? Like, I never ate dessert with my parents, ever, you know? So I was just like, what? Y'all eat dessert? Like cookies and brownies came out. I was just looking like, man, this is crazy. I want this, you know? So going back and then now seeing your mother eating, you know, cereal for dinner, you're like, nah, we're not doing this, you know? But then other moments happen where, you know, the moment that you referenced earlier where a neighbor got killed, I was actually doing some promoting, passing flyers out of the club or something. And, we used to get paid like $100 or something to do that. I was coming home and, we used to live in this efficiency condominium on the 3rd floor. And I see the door open, somebody sticks his head out, he's got a hoodie on, and he closes the door, and I already know what that means. So I like tuck in my chain, take off my watch, put my watch in, and I walk through the door real quick, and there's 3 guys with a hoodie on. And then I like see them, and I'm like, I nod my head like, what's up? And none of them say what's up back to me. So that's when I knew. I was like, all right, and I ran all the way up the stairs real quick and ran into the apartment. But I'm like the king of running silently I'm the king of that. So I did it really fast. I got in there, I closed the door, and I'm looking at the peephole. I see, and I'm just sitting there, my heart's beating really hard. And I'm like, all right. And I just wait, and I don't hear anything. So then I'm just like, all right, I just go to sleep. And then in the morning, boom, 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 police officers knock on the door and they open up, halfway asleep, and they're like, did you hear the gunshots? And I was just like, what gunshots? And I look next door, and they got tape all over and on the walls, blood. And you're looking like, what? Was that supposed to be me? What happened? And after they leave, we're still there. Whoever came and did this is still knows. And I was just like, what, this is, and my mother, she's one of these people, she's the nicest person in the world. One time I gave my mother money, and she went and gave it out to kids in the street for she's like that. She doesn't need it, she doesn't want it. She tries to take her money and go to Africa and build wells, all kind of stuff like that. So she looks at humanity in a positive way and always sees the bright side of it,
In the book, one of them you touched on a little bit here, I'd like to go deeper on, is the notion of relationships. And you talk about how important relationships are and how, especially in the military, in such high pressure situations, how do you build those relationships so that they're really meaningful, so that in the dichotomy of leadership, you talk a lot about you can be too friendly, but you can also be too distant. So in a field manual sense, how do I, and I ask myself this as the CEO, right? There are days that I want to come and play with my teammates, right? I care about them, and I want them to know that I really do care, as a human being. And so you want to sort of be in it some days and play and just be, one of the guys, as it were. But I do worry about going too far and then you don't have the distance to get the things done that need to be done. So how do you build those kind of lasting and useful relationships?
Yeah, this is, when I say that relationships are the most important thing in getting things done, when I look back at my career in the Navy and the SEAL teams, just about every single thing that I ever did was through relationships. So the amount of times that I looked at one of my subordinates and said, no, you will do what I'm saying because I'm in charge, I don't think I actually honestly ever said that one single time. I think it was always, hey, this is what we got to get done. How do you think we should do it? Do you think this is smart? And it was all based on relationships, and up the chain of command too. There was never a time that one of my bosses said, hey, Jocko, shut up and you do what I told you to do. There was never a time that one of my bosses said that to me. There was, if I had a question, if I pushed back, they gave me legitimate answers. If they didn't have good answers, then they would modulate or change what it is that they were telling me to do. So this idea of having relationships up and down the chain of command, and there's a word that people bring up a lot, and I think they're pretty interchangeable, and it's relationships and trust, right? Trust is built on relationships. Relationships are built on trust. If you don't trust me, we don't really have a relationship. Right. The more deeply you trust me, the better relationship we have. So how do I build trust with you? So if you're above me in the chain of command, well, this is one of those answers that's so obvious, it's crazy, but people actually fail to do this, which is if you ask me to do something as my boss, I do it, and I do it well, and I do it consistently. And I go above and beyond what you ask. And if you want me to deliver this project by this date, I deliver it earlier and I deliver it to the best of my ability above and beyond what you expected. And you say, oh wow, when I ask Jocko to do something, he actually does it. And that's where it starts. It starts with that right there, with me performing, me offering advice, me taking what you asked me to do and doing it. That's the number one thing. If we flip those roles, and now I'm in charge of you, how do I build trust with you? Well, what I do is I give you a project. And instead of me giving you a project and then saying, hey, here's how I want you to do this and here's how I want you to do the next part, instead I say, hey, here's a project, let me know how you want to do it. And then you go figure out how you want to get done. And I don't micromanage you, and I don't ask you a million questions about and tell you, no, don't do it like that, do it like this. I let you do it. And what does that tell you? That tells you that I trust you. I trust you. And when I trust you, you start to trust me. And by the way, if something goes wrong, instead of me jumping down your throat and hanging you out to dry and making you an example in front of everyone, I say, hey, let's figure out what went wrong. Did I not support you well enough? Did I not give you what you needed? And so you realize, oh, he's not going to hang me out to dry. He's going to give me the support. He's going to try and teach me if something goes wrong instead of try and drop the hammer on me. And in order to do this properly, of course, let's say you just started working for me. The first thing I would hand you wouldn't be a massively strategic, important project and say, hey, here's a multi-million-dollar project. You take and run with it. I'll be over here. I trust you. You make it happen because I don't know you. How can I trust you if I don't know you? So I'm going to give you a smaller project. I'm going to give you something little to start on. And then you do that well, boom. Now I'm going to give you something bigger. And we continue to go in that direction until pretty much we get to a point where all I really have to tell you is, hey, this is the vision. This is what we're trying to make happen. Run with it. If you need to pass this barrier of whatever kind, let me know so I can let everyone else know. But it's on you. Run with it.
All right, guys, I hope you got a ton of value from hearing all of the different ways that people are finding to give thanks in their life. And I hope that you take this day to reflect on that and remember that if you're filling yourself with gratitude, you're not filling yourself with anxiety and depression and all the other things that can come and tear away your peace of mind. So I hope this added a lot of value to you guys. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care. As many of you know, I'm all about constant self-improvement, a growth mindset, and a relentless focus on progress and skill acquisition. That's why I'm super excited to tell you guys about Skillshare. Skillshare offers classes designed for real life and all the circumstances that come with it. These lessons can help you stay inspired, express yourself, and introduce you to a community of millions. Creative self-discovery and expression can settle your mind, and spontaneous acts of creativity can help break up the routine of a day indoors. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers membership with meaning. So much to explore, real projects to create, and the support of fellow creatives. Skillshare empowers you to accomplish real growth with thousands of classes covering dozens of creative and entrepreneurial skills. For instance, they have an amazing class by Simon Sinek called Presentation Essentials, How to Share Ideas That Inspire Action. If there's anyone that should be teaching that class, it is Simon Sinek. This is a perfect example of the unique classes you can find on Skillshare. You can also find classes on illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, entrepreneurship, and so much more. And Skillshare is also incredibly affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. And right now, the first 1,000 viewers to click the link in the description will get a free trial of premium membership so you can explore your creativity. Don't miss this one, guys. Sign up right now.